All right, hey you and welcome. My name is Mike and you're listening to the latest episode of the That Chapter podcast.
Yeah.
I'm always, because maybe it's not the latest episode. Maybe people have been listening to the podcast.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, this is an old episode for them.
Yeah. Hello from the past.
Yeah, hello from the past. How's the future? Hope
Yeah.
you're still alive. And today, as always, I'm joined. You've heard his dulcet, champagne-like voice, smooth as silk. It's Dirty Keith,
Ew.
the man in black.
That's me. Yeah, all dressed in black once again.
As always. And today, Keith, we
Yeah.
got a good one. We referenced this fella a couple of moons ago on the That Chapter podcast.
We did on the the soap lady one.
The soap lady episode. Yes, we did. Leonardo Cianciulli.
That's the one.
Well, I can never. I mean, I probably, when we were doing the episode, pronounced her name 5 different ways when I was actually recording it.
That's the best way to do it. You're bound to get at least one right.
That was my intention.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
It's a
I
numbers
sure
game,
did.
you know?
Yeah, exactly. One of them will get over Green Monster.
Over everything, onto the streets of Boston.
All right, folks. So, what are we talking about, Keith? How should we broach this subject? How should we begin today's podcast?
How shall we begin today's podcast? I have a bit of a funny story for you.
You
If you'd
do?
like to hear it?
Wow. Okay.
So my wife she went to get a massage the other day, and she went off, she came back, and I was on my lunch break. She came in, she was saying she had a great time, it was really good, but she was like, when she went in, first of all, she said that she got some really weird vibes from like the room, and she was like, I was a bit afraid I was going to get like sex trafficked.
What?
In there, it was just like really dingy area, and I laughed. I thought it was funny. And then I said to her, I was like, in my head, what I wanted to say was, what I was trying to get across was, I wouldn't be worried about sex trafficking in a shop that's around our local shop. And also, usually the age range for these girls are usually a lot younger. So it's probably,
Right.
I wouldn't worry about it too much. That's quite funny. That's not how it came out.
I can imagine. Yeah, I got a feeling how it came out.
Yeah, I kind of laughed and said, I wouldn't worry about it. I don't need to go after you.
You're safe. You're fine.
Yeah, which then she said, what? So then I found myself in this really bizarre situation where I was trying to convince her that she could very well be sex
I
trafficked.
would love to sex traffic you
Look,
anytime.
Yeah, if it was me, I would love to sex traffic you. It'd be amazing.
You'd be my first choice.
Yeah, we
to
were-
throw into a shipping container and sail across the
Exactly,
sea.
yeah. So I was like, gone into the whole thing was I was trying to convince her that she'd be the best person to be sex trafficked. She wasn't believing it, and in the end, she ended up telling her father on me.
Wow,
Yeah.
she really ratted you.
I know, yeah. And then,
But did she say it like that? She says, "My husband doesn't think I should be sex trafficked."
Yep.
And her dad was like, "How dare you? She should be sex trafficked."
Exactly.
Wow.
That's exactly what he said. He said, "How dare he say that? They would be lucky to have you." I guess they'd be lucky to have her. So.
Oh, well, there
Yeah.
you, Keith. You have ended up with a woman who deserves to be sex trafficked. So consider yourself a lucky man.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the word, the correct wording, but somewhere around there.
All right. And folks, I know you guys, by the way, I actually have to say a huge thank you to everybody who has been sending in your spooky stories for the listener stories. One just recently went up, had some really great stories. That was one of my more favorite episodes, especially
good
about the really, you know, if you listen to it, you know the story.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. That genuinely creeped me up. But also a huge thank you to everybody who DMs me or emails me with movie reviews for Malibu Mike's Hollywood movie reviews. I don't really often get to reply to a lot of emails, DMs, and shit like that I get. I'm very, very sorry because I try and read them all, but I'm just probably a socially anxious person. So let's be honest. So sometimes I feel awkward about replying, but I do read them and I appreciate them and it means a lot. So thank you to everybody who sends in your suggestions. So, over the last week, since we last recorded, I did a bit of a binge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Hollywood movies, horror movies specifically,
Yep.
on Mike's Movie Reviews. Okay. I hit some oldies and some newies.
Okay,
So
okay.
first an oldie, which I'd never seen before, if you can believe it, folks. I had never seen...
I can believe it. But I have a very vivid imagination, so.
Well, Keith, can you believe I'd never seen the original Friday the 13th before?
Have you not?
No, I'd never
Okay.
seen. I've seen like lots of the Jason movies,
Yeah,
but I'd never
yeah.
seen the actual OG one.
Yeah,
Kevin Bacon in it.
Yeah.
It's phenomenally good. It's
is, isn't
actually
it? It's great.
great fun
Yeah,
as a
yeah.
movie. Like it has no fucking plot whatsoever. It's literally just a guy going around
Yeah, slashing up people.
murdering people.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Do you know what movie? So as somebody like the movie came out in like what, the late 70s?
Yeah.
The movie that it reminded me of most, which is weird to say, was In a Violent Nature, the movie that's from a serial killer's point of view.
Yes.
Only Friday the 13th is a million times better.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
obviously, In a Violent Nature is kind of like a, inspired by it's about a killer going around a camp, but that's a piece of shit movie, as I spoke about in the podcast. Friday the 13th is great. It's really, really fun.
It is a good
It's
movie,
got a great atmosphere. There's no, I mean, the characters are kind of like whatever. They're obviously just there to be murdered.
Yeah.
But really, really enjoyed it.
It's
really
good, man.
enjoyed it.
God, I haven't seen that movie in years. I should go back and watch it. That was
Yeah,
great.
I'd highly recommend watching the original pre-Hockey Mask.
Yes.
Friday the 13th.
I think we talked about it before. I think it's like not till the third film.
Yeah.
He wears
It comes
like
out late.
the bag with the eye.
Right.
Isn't it?
Yeah. I think it's in the second one. Then the Hockey Mask doesn't come out till the third one.
Yeah,
Honestly, I think he's scarier pre-Hockey Mask to me.
He is,
I think it's
yeah,
'cause maybe it's just the Hockey Mask is so like iconic and sort of been satired and shit like that.
Yes. Yeah.
The other original horror movie, or OG horror movie I watched was the original Halloween. I've already ever seen bits and pieces of
With
the original.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis and Michael Myers, of course. I don't
Not
ever
the comedian.
Not the comedian, not the famous Canadian comedian. Yeah, boy. As everybody knows, it never gets old. Piece of shit, by the way. The original Halloween, the first one. People are gonna be fucking throwing their stereo. As I said that.
Yeah.
By the way, it's not good. It has aged horribly. It has one or two cool ass moments in it for sure.
Yeah.
But if I had to pick between Halloween and Friday the 13th, Friday the 13th, all the way.
I think it's probably definitely one of those films where if you were to watch it now, you'd be like, "This is dog shit. What is this?" But
it is.
At the time, it set up a whole franchise, and
that's for sure. Because Halloween came out before was like the first slasher movie.
Yeah.
I just thought it's like aged really poorly, and not in the poorly. Oh, you can still find it kind of charming, like Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
This is just aged poorly. But then again, honestly, none of the Halloween movies ever floated my yacht.
I like the
so to
one
speak.
that Rob Zombie done. He directed one.
There's the reboot one, I think. Was it just called Halloween, but not the newest? There's like 3 movies
so
in the
many
franchise that are all called Halloween. There's the original one. Then there was like a reboot, and then there was a reboot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is probably going to get a lot of shtick as well, but I don't think Rob Zombie is an amazing director. Like his movies, some of them are really, really good, but they're really hit and miss. Some of them.
The only ones I think I've only ever seen like a couple of his movies. The only one I really remember was it Lords of Salem?
That was good. I enjoyed that.
That was him, right?
Yeah, I liked that one. I liked the Halloween. What was the one he did? The one with the clowns. I didn't really like that one. That wasn't great.
House of a Thousand Corpses. Yeah, Rob Zombie did Lords
Yeah.
of Salem, which I liked Lords of Salem a lot.
That was good. I enjoyed that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so that's that. Sorry for anybody who's still listening after I probably trashed one of the most famous horror movies of all time. I did watch 28 Years Later.
Oh yeah, I've been dying to see that.
Yeah, 28 years later. So I'm a big fan of the original. I watched, always loved the original 28 Days Later. I've seen it, when it came out. I recently rewatched it in anticipation of this one. I like, it's, okay, so the original 28 Days Later, brilliant movie, iconic, one of the best zombie movies of all time. 28 Weeks Later, I like it. It's fun. It's not as good as 28 Days Later, but it's a good sequel that's not done by the original people. 28 Years Later, I thought was, equally brilliant and equally kind of shitty at the same time. It's definitely a movie of two halves where there's so much I love about it. I really like it's very kind of stylish and interesting. It's done. I like the characters. I kind of like the story, and then when it's going, some of the choices in the movie, fucking woof. Danny Boy, or fuck, Jesus, what were you thinking with some of the fucking shit in this movie? Especially at the end. If anybody's seen the movie, they know the scene I'm talking about.
Okay.
That's fine. What bugged me mostly about 28 Years Later was the fact that it ends the movie's just starting and then it ends.
Oh,
it's got that kind of thing. It's kind of the best way of describing it would be, imagine you're having a good old night, Keith, the best night of your life. You're watching Fellowship of the Ring, which I know is your most favorite thing to do.
It is my go-to. Yeah.
And then the movie ends when they're leaving Hobbiton or they're leaving the Shire or whatever, and then it's okay, the movie ends.
Oh,
it's I know that they're making sequels to 28 Years Later, but I still want a movie, a start to finish movie.
I don't want a setup
it felt like just the setup for so that kind of pissed me off about the movie, frankly. It's nothing kind of really fucking happened then.
It's leave them wanting more, but you gotta give me something.
Okay, stuff happened, but it just kind of pissed me off when it's if it ends and you're like, that's it.
Right, yeah.
Other than that, though, I really did like a lot of things about it. So, all right. So I do have some more movies to watch, but as we are doing a two-parter today, folks, stay tuned. We will get into that next week. All right, but now what we should get into is today's episode of the That Chapter podcast.
Absolutely.
Telling the story of the man who thought he could save the world by killing as many people as he possibly could. As we just mentioned at the start of the podcast, we referenced Herbert William Mullin once before. Mm-hmm. He believed an apocalypse was coming, and so he decided he had to make human sacrifices to end it.
Not a great plan.
As plans go, I could think of a few better. Yeah. But, hey, maybe we should try killing people to end global warming.
There were other things he could have started off with, maybe recycling.
He could have.
That would have been a better start than what he decided.
Probably. But, we should start sacrificing people. I think we should bring sacrificing people back, honestly. Like, Aztec
You know what?
style.
Recycling's not working.
Yeah, no. Kill them. Recycle
we
people.
give it a go.
Alrighty. So, let's give it a go.
Okay.
Herbert William Mullin was born during a time of great change. This was 2 years after the Second World War came to an end. He was born April 18th, 1947 in Salinas, just south of Santa Cruz, California. Unlike many killers, Mullin's childhood was far from the torturous struggle that others experienced, and often could lay at least a tiny fraction of the blame on. That's to say, like, Herbert Mullin, he actually had a great life. Usually with serial killers, you see abuse, you see alcoholism, you see all the sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, all of the shit where you can point to and say, oh, that's when the seeds of serial killing were planted in the childhood. Herbert Mullin, none of that. He was like, man, he had a great childhood and upbringing.
He did. And his upbringing, not even just with his parents. I find he had a really good group of, a good friend group and a good community around him that were really supportive.
Yeah, for sure.
Everything he did, and they tried to help him as much as they could, and he just went the opposite way.
Yeah, there you go. Now, having said all that, Mullin did experience his own hardships. So when he was only 1 year old, he was hospitalized when a diarrhea epidemic
oh shit.
swept through the area. Literally. His mother, Jean, she was staunchly Catholic, and his father, Martin Mullin, a veteran of World War II, he was a strict military man. You often do hear it with people who served and maybe have some trauma of their own. They passed it on to their kids by beating the ever-living shit out of them. Martin Mullin never hit his son Herbert at all. Martin was happy to share stories of his adventures in the war, and he taught his son to shoot at an early age, probably hoping that Herb might follow in his footsteps and enlist in the military.
Going into the old family business.
Killing.
Yep.
Yeah, he did.
He did, actually.
When Mullin was 4 years old, the family made the permanent move to live in a small farming community in San Francisco, where his father had found work as a furniture salesman, and Herbert would spend the majority of his adolescence there. Both he and his sister, Patricia, would attend a local Catholic school during this time. He also attended Boy Scouts, played Little League Baseball. Herb's most formative years, though, would come a couple of years after leaving San Francisco for the Santa Cruz area, where, aged 16, the Mullins moved in with Herb's aunt and uncle at their cabin in Boulder Creek. Later that same year, they found their own accommodation in a picturesque small town called Felton. He went on to enroll in San Lorenzo Valley High. Once again, Mullin would distinguish himself from his murderous peers by actually being a pretty cool, popular dude in high school. Not only was Mullin a popular kid with a lot of friends, he even earned the distinction of being voted most likely to succeed by his classmates. Mullin did well with his grades, but athletics and on the football field, that's where he really shone. And to add a cherry to the already well-iced cake, Mullin had himself a purty little small town gal named Loretta to go steady with. If you asked anyone who knew him if they would see him in handcuffs in less than 10 years' time, they would have laughed you out of the room. This all just goes to show that what Mullin's life will turn into was beyond belief to most people. But of course, as we're telling his story, you already know his life is about to take a sudden and sharp left turn.
In the most shocking way possible.
18-year-old Herbert Mullin graduated with his class in 1965. With the world at his feet and every opportunity ahead of him, Herb was truly blessed. Little did he know that this would be the peak, and a tragic accident in the summer after he graduated would change the direction of his life forever. Herb wasn't involved in the accident, rather it was his close friend Dean, who was also 18. Dean would be the one to lose his life. And Dean's death in a traffic collision had a profound effect on Herb. But the true ramifications wouldn't be known for several years. Had there been the appropriate psychological intervention and help at this point, Herb might never have ended up on the path he did. In the fall of 1965, Herb began attending Cabrillo College, where he studied engineering. On the surface, things seemed to be as they ever were for Herb. Underneath, though, the cracks were beginning to show. His deceased friend, Dean, was constantly on his mind and had ignited an almost obsessive interest in the idea of reincarnation. He found great comfort in Eastern religious ideas, and especially in the notion that Dean would come back to him in some way. Herb even built a shrine to his friend in his bedroom. He'd also become withdrawn, spending hours alone in his room. Needless to say, Herb was not only at a pivotal point in his life due to his age, he was also on a psychological cliff edge.
In the spring of 66, while at a beach, Herb, he met another friend of Dean's. His name was Jim Genera, which is a great name, by the way. Jim Genera. Jim was more into the flower power hippie movement than Herb's other friends. And he was the first person to expose him to anti-war sentiments and, more importantly, drugs.
Yeah, buddy!
Smoking a reefer.
Drugs.
No, we're okay.
Drugs.
Jim even gave Herb his first joint. So, yeah, they bonded over that.
Yeah, and this is a big mistake for Jim.
Oh, big time. Yeah.
In many ways, folks. We will get to it. Now, throughout this downward spiral, Herb's girlfriend, Loretta, she had remained by his side. But even as he became more and more involved with drugs over the coming months, the two became alienated and began taking different paths. The couple temporarily split in June of 1966 when Herb finished his first year of college, only to reunite and get engaged 6 months later. After finishing his first year, Herb took a summer job working with the county road crew. And the relationship with his high school sweetheart ended for good less than a year later, in March of 1968, when he told Loretta he had had a sexual experience with another fella and thought he might be bisexual. The relationship ending might have also had quite a lot to do, though, more likely, with Herb's increasingly frequent bouts of violence, often hitting Loretta on several occasions. Probably had more to do with him beating the shit out of his girlfriend rather than maybe he had some kind of encounter with another man.
Yeah, that'll do it, alright.
Let's be honest.
Herb's romantic and intimate relationships weren't the only increasingly unstable parts of his life. Actually, there was little in his life at the time that was actually stable. So this was thanks to his ever-growing love of chemicals, in particular, LSD.
Hell yeah, brother.
So Herb's behavior changed accordingly, and he began to have long spells of just like zoning out, during which he would just sit in silence and staring intensely into the distance.
I don't need any drugs to just zone out. I feel like I'm zoned out half the time.
Oh, at the end of the workday, yeah, I'm done.
It feels great.
Yeah.
Other times he would rant and ramble about various esoteric Eastern philosophies, mixed with complete nonsense. Despite the ever-increasing drug use and the fallout from it, Herb managed to graduate with a degree in road engineering in the summer of 1967. He then enrolled at San Jose College shortly after, but thanks to his ever-increasing drugs use and obsession with Eastern religions, he ultimately decided to change his college major from engineering to philosophy. Good luck, buddy, get the job with fucking that one. Regardless, he dropped out entirely a few weeks later, which sounds like a philosophy major, alright.
Oh, yeah.
It was right around this time that Herb had begun to obsess over something else, folks. Natural disasters. Now, Keith, have you ever watched videos of like tidal waves, tsunamis, that kind of shit on YouTube?
Yeah,
they're pretty fascinating.
They are. I really
to
enjoy
watch.
watching them.
Yeah. And this was long before the YouTube days,
Yeah. All you have to do is read about it and imagine it in your own head.
which I feel probably made it better. Maybe if YouTube was around in the 60s, he would have like gotten it out of his system.
That was it.
I mean,
Yeah.
oh, that's what a tsunami looks like.
Okay,
Cool.
done. Moving on.
No, it was grinding in his gears. And he was thinking about it non-stop. In particular, it was earthquakes Herb seemed to think were going to happen very, very soon. And of course, living in California, it is a constant
Pretty prone
fear.
to earthquakes.
Yeah. He even talked to Loretta before they broke up, and other family and friends, about the possibility of moving to Canada to escape the incoming apocalyptic earthquake he believed California was due.
Safe from earthquakes, sure, but not moose attacks.
No,
A gamble for sure.
I will take an earthquake, thank you. Aged 20, Herb was jobless, single, and altogether directionless. The thing is, it wasn't exactly unusual for someone of his age at the time. It was right smack dab in the middle of the hippie anti-war movement. So, fucking long-haired layabouts? Sure, what else you gonna do? Herb and California were right at the heart of both, so even his drugs use was easily hand-waved away as just something that kids are into these days. Not that the drugs and Herb's counterculture ways were happily swallowed by his father, by the way, who, if you'll remember, was a former military man and was none too fond of the old, quote, long hairs. I love that.
Oh, he wouldn't like me.
Yeah. Like he did with most things, Herb threw himself headfirst into both the anti-war movement and the hippie lifestyle. So much so that it wasn't long before he got himself arrested for holding marijuana, but managed to plead guilty to a lesser charge and escape with probation. At this time, the Vietnam War was raging, and so he applied for, and was granted, official conscientious objector status, much to the continued displeasure of his father.
By this time, Herb's father had actually come around to understanding his son's point of view, and he actually even wrote a letter on his son's behalf in which he made it clear that he believed that his son's stance to be genuinely born of his peaceable mind nature and not of his cowardice.
I love the way he had that. My son is not a fucking pussy. He's not a coward, I swear.
He does have really strong beliefs, okay? Yeah. So as a result, Herb, he was able to serve in a civil rather than a military post, as those granted conscientious objector status were required to complete alternative service as a condition of not being drafted into the old NAM.
Yeah, and Herb's alternative service to, I guess you'd say the war effort, was getting a job at a Goodwill in San Luis Obispo.
What a swizz.
Which was wild. Yeah, he really looked out when the Selective Service Board allowed his time working there to be credited as his alternative service time.
He just got a job.
And it's, he's helping out with the war effort. You know, he's recycling old t-shirts and whatnot. Early in February of 1969, now aged 21, Herb suddenly got up and quit his job with Goodwill and announced to his family that he was going to go to India to study yoga. Now, he didn't make it quite that far. He didn't even make it out of California. Instead, he moved to Sebastopol, a city north of San Francisco, and into a trailer on his sister, Patricia, and brother-in-law, Albert, their ranch. So he just, I'm going to India, but I'm actually just going to go move with my sister and her husband.
Yeah, just a little shy.
Yeah. Missed it by just a bit. Yeah.
I always find it's mad those people like get really into like India to find themselves.
Right, I guess, all that yoga stuff. Did you ever watch that documentary, was it on Netflix, about the Indian yoga guy who sets up in Oregon? What's it called?
Oregon.
Shit, what's that called? Or Washington or somewhere?
Is it like a black market thing where they take your organs and sell them?
No, Oregon.
Oh, Oregon.
Yeah.
Okay, mine sounded way better.
Maybe everybody's mishearing it. Yeah. Yoga documentary on Netflix. What's it called about your man? Fuck, it's not
I
yoga
clearly don't know what you're
guru.
talking about. So.
Folks, this is all part of the podcast. This is what Wild Country.
Okay.
It's a good documentary. There's probably some yoga people who are listening. Hey, listen, stretch all you want.
They're the ones you gotta watch out for.
I know.
Yoga instructors. Watch your back, people, because they can watch their own back.
And so, it wasn't long after he moved into his sister and her husband's trailer that, one night at dinner with Patricia and Albert, Herb first began showing outward signs of possible schizophrenia. According to Patricia, during dinner, her brother suddenly froze up and began to mimic Albert's every word and action. At first, they just thought it was, him playing around, but they soon realized it was a compulsive action Herb had zero control over. The condition is called echopraxia, copy of movements, or echolalia, the copy of speech, and is often a symptom of a schizophrenic episode.
In a later incident, Herb asked Patricia if she would have sex with him. When she calmly refused, recognizing it as caused by his mental illness and not a genuine sexual attraction to his own sister,
We hope.
Herb asked if he could have sex with her husband instead. The strange and concerning episode led Herb to voluntarily commit himself on behest of the family to a 6-week stint at a local state hospital.
That must have been an interesting conversation.
Yeah, I know. Imagine if it was a genuine request and no, I was like, I'm gone mad.
Yes, I need to be institutionalized.
I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, exactly. Just trying to cover.
I'm going to use that in future next time I embarrass myself.
My brain, my poor diseased brain.
So during his time there, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia, exacerbated by his frequent drug use, and given antipsychotic medication, which, when he bothered to take them, they did calm him down considerably. Unfortunately, after 6 weeks and against medical advice, 22-year-old Herb stopped cooperating with his treatment and he left the hospital. Once back in Santa Cruz, he almost immediately got into trouble with the law after a ranger came across him meditating. Basically, he was sitting in a cross-legged pose and staring off into the distance. When the ranger repeatedly asked Herb to leave and was ignored, he made a move against Herb, at which point Herb thought it was a good idea to reach for his knife. Obviously, the ranger one-upped him and pulled out a gun, and Herb ended up in jail. He did go to jail without a struggle, and Herb wasn't actually booked. But it was just another run-in in a long history of run-ins. In September 1969, Herb did take a positive step when he began residential treatment at the Santa Cruz Community Drugs Abuse Prevention Center. As always with Herb though, one step forward followed by a horrific tumble backwards down a steep stairwell. He tries to get treatment. He does treatment for about a day or two and then is like, actually no. During his stay in the treatment center, Herb's mental state went drastically south. He soon began hearing voices, giving him commands, including encouraging him to harm himself. As a result, Herb began ritualistically, and wait till you hear this, burning the end of his dick with lit cigarettes.
Oh, fuck. They do say the cigarettes are addicting.
Oh, yeah, very addictive. Yeah, man, I feel like that would just like snap you out of any kind of mental state. You're
Right?
in.
Yeah.
It's
I'll
like,
get you
I
up in the morning, already.
Yeah. In October of 1969, he left the medical center and applied for welfare, but also reapplied for his old job at Goodwill, showing the frantic state of his thinking at the time.
His former manager would later say that Herb had told him that he was hearing voices and they were telling him what to do. Probably like kept telling him to go for a smoke break or something.
Yeah.
But when the job obviously didn't work out, Herb, he ended up drifting back down to San Luis Obispo.
Soon after he arrived, he met up with a friend and began making aggressive sexual advances towards him. Luckily, the friend realized right away that something was really wrong with Herb and informed his uncle, a psychiatric doctor, who immediately recognized signs of Herb having a severe schizophrenic episode and was able to have the sheriff commit him rather than throw him in jail. This time, Herb was committed to a secure psychiatric ward at San Luis Obispo County General Hospital. Famously, his doctor, Joseph Middleton, noted that Herb was committed as a result of a mental disorder. He is a danger to others, a danger to himself, and gravely disabled. That's a quote from Joseph Middleton. Herb remained in the hospital under the supervision of Dr. Middleton for 2 months. During his stay, he wrote to his parents and informed them that he had been committed against his will and asked that they write to him as often as they could. They would eventually visit Herb, and it was during their visit that Herb told them he was gay. Dr. Middleton diagnosed and treated Herb for paranoid schizophrenia and considered Herb's condition and prognosis to be grave. But Herb was once again ultimately discharged November 23rd, 1969, on the strict condition that he make regular visits to a mental health clinic back home in Santa Cruz. Listen, person who has a severe mental dissociative state and doesn't really know what they're doing. Pinky promise. You'll keep coming back for your regular appointments.
Say it. Say you promise me.
So with his mental state on a knife's edge, basically by this point, Herb, he sorta kinda managed to hold it together long enough that he got a steady job at a Holiday Inn, washing dishes.
What are you doing?
Washing dishes.
But by March of 1970, the small paychecks, along with his welfare checks, were enough for Herb to afford to move out of the family home and into a dirt cheap hotel.
The hotel, by the way, it was the kind that was like, it was so cheap that it only attracted sex workers and drug dealers. So it wasn't exactly a great crowd for a impressionable and fragile mind like Herb to be around. Herb, he continued to flirt with the hippie lifestyle, and after visiting a commune, Herb, he declared his intention he was going to move there. Sadly for Herb, the genuine hippie residents of the commune were all pretty weirded out by Herb and his oddness, so not even they would take him in.
One person, an older woman named Pat Brown, did take a shine to Herb. And Herb just like keeps meeting the absolute weirdest people.
Yeah.
Because in the summer of 1970, the two of them, Pat and Herb, suddenly went off to Hawaii together. And almost the second they landed, Pat did a legger and abandoned Herb in the middle of Hawaii. And within a few days, who could have seen this coming, Herb was back in a psychiatric hospital, this time in Maui, and voluntarily though this time. He was soon seen by a psychiatrist who gave him his third diagnosis of schizoaffective schizophrenia. Herb was in a bad state at first. He'd even absconded from the hospital and tried applying for jobs while still in a hospital gown. He would also preach to his fellow patients, advocating non-violence and yoga, as well as a little old heavy dose of LSD as the keys of life. For once though, and under heavy supervision, Herb stuck to his medication. This led to his condition improving dramatically. He was soon able to write to his parents and ask for money to get home, as he was well enough to be discharged. After they went to bring him home, they soon found out Herb was lying, and even had to pull over to the side of the road after his psychotic ranting scared his own parents into calling the police.
I will say one thing about Herb. Like, he has an amazing work ethic. Like, even as his own mind is crumbling around him, he's like, "No, I gotta get a job."
Yeah, he's always trying. Yeah, he's a trier for sure. I'll give him that.
So the next year or so was wild and a chaotic time for Herb. So he bounced from trying to straighten out to falling completely into delusions. His relationships with his parents it was more strained than ever, as he continued to pull away from them. And they blamed themselves for his illness, and they constantly questioned where they had gone wrong. In turn, Herb, he also began to blame them, and he even changed the beneficiary on his will, not that he had anything, from his parents to UNICEF instead.
And Herb's behavior continued to be erratic throughout the end of 1970 and into 1971, as he seemed to be desperately searching for something that would fix him. You do feel sorry for him, really. Something was wrong with him, and he knew something was wrong with him. He appeared to scroll through identities like someone going through a character selection freaking Fallout style, picking different attributes, but he could never land on who he was. In early 1971, Herb went from having his first homosexual affair to going on a strict macrobiotic diet, shaving his head and losing dozens of pounds, to suddenly deciding to become a professional boxer. He also began wearing a gigantic sombrero and affecting a Mexican accent, which kind of rocks. Though he actually did commit himself to boxing and was considered a pretty decent brawler, but it was far from enough to keep him out of trouble. And he continued to have run-ins with the law. I imagine him just doing, he was just doing Speedy Gonzales.
Yeah,
that was his idea of a Mexican accent.
Yeah, right. It was definitely racist.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think he spoke any Spanish at all.
No.
In May of 1971, Herb made the fateful move to San Francisco, where he moved into another cheap-as-dirt hotel.
And this was also the point in his life that one of the doctors, along with many who had looked into Herb's life since, believed that he had reached his breaking point. Had he stayed home, there was a vague semblance of a way back, but the move put an end on any hope of that happening. The hotel, it was another hellhole frequented by society's forgotten folks, drug users, alcoholics, and mental patients, just like Herb.
And this is where 24-year-old Herb met Alan Hansen. Hansen shared many of Herb's beliefs around philosophy and reincarnation, and Herb took that as a sign, and the two began to encourage each other. Herb spiraling deeper into psychosis as a result of the constant gratification. Ultimately, this cocktail of chaotic circumstances led Herb to begin believing that the voices he would hear were actually telepathic messages from other people, including he heard his father's voice too. He also began to have feelings of delusional levels of grandeur, believing he himself, Herb Mullin, had been selected by God to do something special with his life. Herb began looking for patterns and took any and every little coincidence as a grand sign that he was right. Small details like learning he was born the very same day Albert Einstein died, that suddenly had real significance to Herb.
Oh, maybe he was the reincarnation of Einstein.
Exactly. Yeah, that kind of stuff. By September of 1972, Herb had moved back with his parents and had also stopped completely taking his medication. That meant his feelings of violence and resentment towards his father quickly grew into outright hatred. Herb's voices became more and more clear. They were consistently telling him to kill, while also telling him that a huge earthquake was coming to California. Herb's twisted thinking had led him to truly believe that God would send earthquakes when not enough people were dying.
The earthquake idea, that actually didn't originate with Herb, but from a former maths teacher, self-taught scientist, and accredited crackpot named I.D. Greenspan. So Greenspan claimed that the combined gravitational pull of the Earth, Moon and Sun were going to cause a huge earthquake. Seismologists, they believed his claims were bullshit, as specifics of earthquakes' exact time, location and magnitude, they were just not predictable. It's not something that they could foresee.
Right, yeah. And most sane people are able to see through that kind of drivel, that kind of bullshit. But Herb was not a sane person. As a result, he came to think that if he killed people, God would take them as sacrifices and not be compelled to send bigger disasters and take even more people. At this time, Herb was known to have full-blown conversations and even erupt into shouting arguments with God. In Herb's mind, all of this was actually happening, and it all made perfect sense. No matter how bizarre and out there and crazy this sounds to us, this was the reality he was living in. In October 1972, encouraged by what he thought were amazing discoveries and no longer tempered by medication or therapy, nothing's holding him back now, Herb finally fell over the cliff edge of insanity and into complete madness, and was about to cross the moral point of no return. Because then, the murders began. The pivotal day came on October 13th, 1972, which, of course, it had to be a Friday. He has to kill on Friday the 13th. Yeah, he just has to. Herb had been hearing the usual voices all week long, but one of them, the voice of his father, had begun to stand out from the chorus, and the voices were telling Herb he needed to kill someone.
Now, when Herb, he would push back or question the legitimacy of these telepathic commands, the voices would tell Herb that if he didn't do as they commanded, and remember, he believed this to be the genuine voice of his father, that he would bring shame on his family by showing cowardice.
Almost like avoiding the draft or something.
Yeah, right? Yeah. It's like, oh, you need to kill these people. It's like, oh, you sure about this? Don't worry about it, guy. It's fine. It's cool. It's cool.
That morning, Friday the 13th, Herb went out for a drive in his Chevy station wagon. As he drove along the riverbank, following a road meandering and wandering through the mighty Santa Cruz redwoods, he spotted a homeless man, 55-year-old native Oklahoman Lawrence White, walking alone along the side of the road. Herb continued on a little past him down the road before pulling over, popping out the Chevy's hood. He waited there, pretending to have some kind of car trouble, till Lawrence White eventually came along. Now, White was pretty handy with mechanics and saw the opportunity to help, maybe even get a ride for his troubles. Herb readily accepted the help, telling White he didn't know much about cars. But as soon as White bent over the engine, Herb unleashed his real plan. That morning, he had found an old hickory baseball bat in his garage and tossed it into the car, ready for this moment. While Lawrence White was distracted working on the car, Herb walked over, retrieved the bat from the rear of the car, and walked up behind the Good Samaritan and brutally beat the man to death. Now, Herb never seen this guy before in his life. He had no connection to this man whatsoever, and Herb didn't even see what he was doing as murder. Rather, to Herb, this was the right thing to do, a sacrifice for the greater good, beating him to death and leaving his body along the side of the road. White had been homeless for most of his adult life, drifting from place to place to place. He was the perfect victim, both of his parents already dead, along with his sibling. That meant no one was going to notice that he didn't come home, and no one was really going to investigate who did this to him. And the killing was only getting started. And we'll pick up there next week with Herbert Mullin Part 2. The killer who thought he could save the world. I mean, he can't fault his intentions.
He tried, but
he tried.
He failed.
And
we're in chaos, Herb.
Yeah, and he's going to kill. Okay, we're going to get into it, but some of the next parts, woof. It gets dark big time, folks. So buckle up, buckaroo.
But that was just a setup.
Yeah, that's the prelude. That's just so you know why, because he's in and out of psychiatric hospitals basically his entire life. He grew up completely normal, sane, great childhood. His parents, he had a girlfriend, He had good mates, blah, blah, blah. And
He
then
smoked one joint.
That's
it only takes one.
It only takes one. Kids, if there's a lesson to be learned, don't do drugs.
Just say no.
Yeah, and just give them to me and Keith. All right, folks, thank you so much for listening. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to the man sitting across from me. And yeah, we'll catch up with you next week for Herbert Mullin Part 2.
Yeah.
So look forward to that.
Cool beans. And I'll see you.
All right, love ya. Bye.
Drugs.
No, we're okay.
Drugs.
This is awkward. No, thank you.
Drugs.
Who